Tornado warnings, meaning that there is Doppler indicated tornadoes right there into central portions of Charlotte County and into southern and eastern portions of Sarasota County. Just to give you an idea, if you're into that warned area, you should be seeking shelter immediately at this point. We have Leslie Lacey, which is going to be showing us a little bit more on the vertical velocity. If you can get that graphic up, that would be great. I'm not on one, I'm using one right now, but this is it pushing off to the northeast. This one's pushing off to the northeast at around, get this, 30 to 40 miles an hour. Again, a tornado warning has just been put in effect for this one right here. We'll go ahead and check that out. That's in effect and stays with us until 5:30. This one more than likely pretty much the same story. That is in effect until 5:30 on top of that. So two separate tornado warnings in there. We're going to go and switch it over to Max 2 right now and show you what's happening with the flood warning and a flash flood warning. That's also a very serious subject that we're keeping an eye on right now. With that in mind, you have to realize that the flooding is taking place right now. It's imminent into and around Charlotte County and into Venice as well. These are all very serious situations that we are looking at. Let's go ahead and max it back to 1 right now and show you what's happening with it. To get you the vertical velocity on this. And these are the two cells. We don't really see much of a couplet right there, but what we're looking at is this pushing to the north. Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte, Northport, you're all in that tornado warning. There's two separate ones, but just realize these are Doppler indicated tornadoes, meaning there is some rotation. The couplets aren't that noticeable right now. When we say couplets, that means winds going in different directions near the center of that signature of the tornado. So we'll stop it again just to give you an idea. If you're just now joining us, the radar picture is showing two separate cells, one right here, another one right here. And they are moving off to the northeast. The warned area, if we can get to the warned area with this particular cell, I don't see it. Oh, there's 3D. Hold on a second. It's tough to see with all that rain right there. But there's the two separate warnings at this point. We'll move it just a little bit to give you an idea where this is and where it's going. If you're in the path of this area in red, you should be seeking shelter immediately into your safe room and staying away from any kind of windows. A safe room is in a small interior room, such as a closet or a bathroom, preferably, and bring blankets and pillows in there too. These tornadoes can cause damage. They're usually on the ground for just a short period of time if they do reach the ground. Now understand that the Doppler radar system that sees these is looking up into the storm a little bit. So it's not looking at the surface, it sees the rotation and spin, and that's what we call a tornado signature or a couplet, where air is moving one direction toward the radar and the other part of it is moving away from the radar, indicating some pretty good rotation and spin right there. So these are in effect for the next 26 minutes now, both of them. A tornado warning is in effect for Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte, Northport, and all cities in between. Inglewood, you are not included in that warning right now, but the area in green, I want people to realize this too. This is flooding occurring right now as a result of the heavy rainfall we've seen recently. And speaking of that, the radar picture continues to show more storms developing right there where we're getting that flooding problem. So all the way into Sarasota, Longboat Key, on Lido, along, it looks like even Longboat Key, all the way up to Anna Maria Island, still going to see more storms developing. As we said, rain is going to be a big deal here. Now, these tornadoes, I mentioned the tornado warnings, we had a few this morning. We didn't get reports of any kind of damage associated with them, but that's not to say these can't do it. Now, remember that the radar, further away you get from it, is looking a little higher into the storm, and so it may see that rotation a little sooner before you get an actual funnel or a tornado touchdown. But if you're just, again, joining us right now, we are looking at that tornado warning for Northport and Port Charlotte. This one's in effect until 5:30. This one as well in effect until 5:30. Just showing you, even though the storm center is to our north, we're still in that danger of getting these small, brief tornadoes that can cause problems. It can turn cars over. That's the reason why we suggest don't drive, not just because of the flooding rain, but also because these winds associated with these tornadoes can reach speeds up to 60, 70, 80, even 100 miles an hour. We don't usually get big ones above that, but certainly that is an issue at this point. So Leslie's going to set up on her computer, and we're going to get and find out a little bit more of some of the watches and warnings here in just a little bit. But But I just want to reiterate that flood warning is in effect until 8 o'clock. We'll switch it back to the radar and show you the big swath of storms that you see right there. There's a little bit of a dividing area between those two storms. We'll zoom into it right now and show you those two separate rotations in circulation. There's the one. And there's the other one, now near Northport. It's going to cross I-75. Heavy rainfall is being felt there. Port Charlotte, you are in the path of this one right now, and this little gap is separating the two storms. So you're getting a lot of rotation and spin with these two cells as they move off to the northeast. Venice, you're out of the woods of the tornado right now, and Inglewood, you're looking okay. We'll zoom it out a little bit further to see if any more is out there developing in the Gulf of Mexico. I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to see a couple more of these cells pop and turn into at least Doppler-indicated tornadoes. Typically, the Doppler radar sees them and gives you kind of a heads up. Hey, there might be something spinning coming your way, and they come fast. So don't wait for the warning if you're in Arcadia and the storm is moving your way. If the weather starts to pick up, you start to hear that familiar sound of a heavy rainfall. That could indicate that you're going to get close to some damaging winds with these two cells. Once again, there's another cell that could pop, but generally speaking, these are the ones that we're watching right now. This one and this one, where the National Weather Service has now issued that tornado warning. Two separate warnings, both expiring in about just 23 minutes from now. And then you have problems out there in the Gulf of Mexico. Obviously, the tropical storm warnings remain up for our entire coast. That includes western portions and central portions of Charlotte County into Sarasota and Manatee counties at this point. We'll move it up the road just a little bit to show you this flood warning, which is important. There's another flood warning just issued down near Fort Myers in Naples. But this includes Palmetto, Ellington, and Rabonia, as well as into Terracea, northwest Bradenton, where the rain has been coming down fairly heavy. We'll take a look at the estimated rainfall totals. Oh, look at this right there on Longboat Key. That's the reason why we're getting these warnings right now. We take a look at that last feeder band that came through, and this is excessive amount of rainfall, especially on Anna Maria and into and around Cortez, northwest Bradenton. You have seen quite a bit of rainfall. We'll go ahead and check out how much rainfall has fallen thus far with this cell. And you can see there's 6.3 inches, and that came down in just a short period of time. 6 inches near Cortez, stretching down toward Longboat Key, 5 inches all the way out and close to just near Lakewood Ranch, 4 inches of rainfall. And on Siesta Key, we've had quite a bit of rain, 6 inches, and more is on the way. We'll get back to the radar picture to show you those two tornadoes that we are watching around, two tornado warnings that we're looking at right now. Box zoom it. We'll go down into Siesta Key first to see if this cell has any indication. Doesn't look like it at this point. We'll go local and show you those warnings now. The warning area is for Northport, Port Charlotte, and into Punta Gorda at this point until 5:30 with this tornado warning that you see right there. And that does include I-75 all the way into southwestern portions of DeSoto County and into southeastern Manatee County until 5:30 this afternoon. Doppler indicated rotation and circulation with this cell as it moves to the northeast. The area in yellow is a tornado watch. That's in effect until 8 o'clock. So Wauchula, you don't have any warning right now, but these are heading in this direction. So Arcadia and Wauchula, they're moving at about 40 to 50 miles an hour. And it won't take long if these hold together to head in your direction. The area in green all the way from Anna Maria Island southward to Venice is a flood warning. We're going to stay on with you right now all the way through this event because it's important that people maybe just joining us wanting to know about this particular tornado warning, and that's what we're looking at right now. We'll go in once again to show you where at least the cell was, and this cell in particular near Port Charlotte, you don't really see a hook echo. These are low top storms too. It's just the difference in wind at the surface and the winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere feeding into the storm, creating that twist in the atmosphere, and then that signature showing up. So there's one. That's the second one right here near Northport. So that looks like a little tail here, like a little twist. It is moving off very quickly off to the north and northeast at this juncture. So the warned area is important that you watch this. This is going to be possibly played out throughout the next couple of hours as more cells are developing in the Gulf of Mexico at this point. Every area that you see in red is under a tornado warning right now. That does include much of Northport. We'll take it down to street level and show you that basically places to the west of Northport are not included in that. If we go all the way down to street level, you see Warm Mineral Springs. You're not in that warning. The most important areas that I'm concerned about are a little bit to the east of South Cranberry Boulevard, and you can see right there near I-75, near Plantation Boulevard. Those are where the, I think, more concerning areas are. The closer you are into the center of this warned area. We'll zoom it out. Let's zoom it out a little bit just to show you, again, the local region. These are the two warnings, but I would not be surprised to see these other cells in the Gulf turn severe or possibly generate other little twists in the atmosphere, which could cause problems. Now, we talked about the flood warning, already 6 inches. Well, here comes a lot more rain, and I expect this to continue through tonight. Thus, the flood watch is in effect. If I put that into motion, the center is right here. It is moving north. It hasn't gained strength. The 5 o'clock advisory has come in, and it's still at 65 miles an hour. However, we do expect it to gain Category 1 hurricane status here in just a little bit. The showers and storms, heavy rainfall into Pinellas County, the Sunshine Skyway, not a good place to be driving. In fact, you should be staying put and cancel any kind of driving plans that you may have this evening because of that flood warning. We saw what happened in the second week in June when we had 17 inches of rainfall out on Siesta Key and into St. Armand's Circle, which caused significant flooding. And this is what's concerning to me, these separate cells that could also generate tornadoes over the next hour or so as they make their way onshore. Once again, if you're just joining us, 2 separate tornado warnings, one for East and Sarasota County. That's in effect until 5:30. This one for Punta Gorda and including Port Charlotte for another cell until 5:30 this evening. I understand Leslie is ready to go. Leslie, are you ready to go? All right, I was throwing over to Leslie right now. Leslie?
We're going to go ahead and take a look at Max, too. I just want to show you a live look here, and you can just see kind of the conditions that have been deteriorating as Bob's been talking about this just over the last, say, 20 minutes. And, of course, we are continuing to watch those 2 tornado warnings in those areas. But just look at the winds picking up. This is actually in the Venice area that we're looking at. And I'm just going to kind of look at the hour-by-hour forecast. And we've got really no chance of letting up as we move into the overnight. We're still going to continue to see these bands whip around the area as this storm continues to strengthen. We are expecting it again to become a Category 1 hurricane, possibly within the next few hours or so. But right now, some pretty intense conditions in the Venice area as well as Anna Maria Island. This is over at Sharky's on the pier at the Venice Pier. So again, taking a look at that Titan radar. If you are just joining us, there are 2 tornado warnings that are in effect, and I just want you to see this particular area here that's kind of got the, I'm going to just block it off. There you go. See my little green arrow there kind of moving around. These are where the 2 tornadoes have been, the warnings have been issued. And again, this is going to be in effect until 5:30. So that's another 16 minutes. So this, of course, encompassing that Northport area. Let me go ahead and zoom in, get a little bit closer for you. Portions of Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda as well. And as you can see, if you've got any friends who are, or loved ones that are going to be heading out, don't do it. Stay at home. This continues along I-75, this entire area encompassing Murdoch over on Chamberlain Boulevard, as well as Haberlin Boulevard, Yorkshire Street, and this stretches all the way up here. You can see to State Road 672 up to Seidel Road, and then continuing up into Sugar Bowl Road. So this is the area where the tornado warnings have been issued. Again, 2 separate warnings, and they're going to be lasting for about another 15 minutes. So we're going to continue with this. I also want to back up and show you we've got more issues out there. Everywhere that you see in red here is actually a tornado watch, and that's going to last until 8 p.m. And that encompasses the entire Suncoast area as well as our northern areas, almost pressing over to the East Coast. Not only do we have threats of tornadoes, but we've also got some minor flooding that is happening. Little Manatee River, not too much, but we are expecting, about a foot or so of flooding there. And also as we push over and take a look at the Manatee River and even portions of Horse Creek, we've had some issues going on, some minor flooding there, and that's right at the edge of those tornado warnings, again, that are in effect. Everywhere that you see in red that I'm showing you right here, these are 2 tornado warnings. Again, you can see pushing from Port Charlotte up through Northport across I-75, almost reaching up to State Road 70 here in portions of Sarasota, Manatee County, as well as Charlotte. Now let's move over and take a look at this green area. You see where I'm showing you here? This is now a flash flood warning. So things are really heating up due to this storm. A lot of people think, oh, it's a tropical storm. It's not that big of an issue. It's not a Cat 2 or a Cat 3 hurricane. Well, that's just not the case. It can cause tornadoes, it can cause flooding, and that's what we're experiencing right now. So everywhere that you see in the green here, I'm just going to go ahead and let you see. This is going to be in effect until 8 p.m., this flash flood warning. And this is all of Sarasota. You can see bordering Lakewood Ranch from I-75 over to the West Coast, even getting by the Skyway Bridge here. I'm going to kind of go ahead and zoom in. So this entire area in this dark green is under a flash flood warning. So we're already getting some flooding in these areas, okay? Now I'm going to move over, back up a bit here, and let me go ahead and get to this other area right here. Oh, flood watch. This is the watch. It's in effect. Okay, so this is Sarasota, Manatee, DeSoto, Hardy County, and some of these impacts, you've got some intense runoff, low-lying areas, poor drainage areas. Those are the areas that are infected. So we have the flash flood warning and then a general flood watch over the area as well. Now I want to move over and I want to talk about storm surge, because we've now got a warning that's in place for storm surge, and it is over in Manatee County. Expecting about 2 to 4 feet. Now, for the storm surge watches, those encompass Sarasota, Charlotte, and Lee County, about 2 to 4 feet as well. Now, when we talk about storm surge, what happens is obviously your normal level rises from the water, whether it be in the ocean, whether it be in the river, and it pushes up. So you've got to add in high tide when you look at that. So one of the high tides we're really going to be paying attention to is going to be at about 3:15 in the morning overnight. And that's going to be another about 1.5 feet. So you add that to the storm surge that we've already got, and it raises it even more. So it's very important to know when those high tides are. So again, we've got a storm surge warning here in Manatee County, everywhere that you see in the pink, stretching from Manatee County all the way up into Hillsborough, Pinellas, and stretching all the way up, as you can see, to the north there on the west coast of Florida. And in the yellow, that's where we've got the storm surge watch. It's in effect for Sarasota. All right, let's throw things back to our chief meteorologist, Bob. Bob, what's the latest on the storm?
We're watching it. It stays in effect, the tornado warnings, until 5:30. Now, the Doppler indicated tornadoes are near and around Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte, but I must tell you, they're moving to the north at 40 miles an hour. They're racing off in a north direction right now. In the warned area, as we told you earlier, and you just heard from Leslie, right there, a bullseye into and around Charlotte County, all the way into Northport. We'll take a closer look at that and show you. There they are. They're both tornado warnings, indicating that Doppler is showing some rotation and spin with this. And a lot of times you look for couplets. We saw some pretty impressive couplets this morning with Mike and John kind of detailing where those were going. We didn't get any damage reports from them. I think they were a little bit more impressive than the ones I'm going to show you right now. So this is the vertical velocity. So we're looking at storms going toward the radar and away, and you don't see them. They're kind of subtle right here. We'll go ahead and stop this and show you what I'm talking about. If we get a little tighter into it, we'll zoom in. So people in Port Charlotte and Punta Gorda, look out. There appears to be a little couplet right there. So that's beyond now Port Charlotte. So it looks like you may be out of the woods there because they're moving so fast at 40 miles an hour. But this is one right here. This could be the secondary one right there. It's not very impressive. It takes kind of a trained eye to see that kind of rotation. The National Weather Service did see it, and they issued that tornado warning just about, 20 minutes ago or so. It's set to expire here into the next 10 minutes, and it looks like they've combined them maybe, both of them together now with that. We'll see and check it out at this point. So a tornado warning until 5:30, that remains. And Northport, you are out of the woods as that system has lost its signature. We haven't had any reports. If you hear or see anything, give us a call or drop us a note at again, news at mysuncoast.com, and send your photos into mysuncoast.com. You'll see it where it says share it. We'll zoom it out just a little bit. So the one tornado warning that was issued for Northport, that has since expired for the most part. The secondary one's covering eastern portions of Northport, but Port Charlotte, you're still in it, but more than likely, as I just showed you a minute ago, the couplet, if you will, is now to the north of Punta Gorda. This is the center of Tropical Storm Debby still. You can still see this starting to feel in. This means more storms and these feeder bands will continue to move into our coast, and this is what we've been talking about. The big problem is with the flood warning that we're seeing right now on top of the Doppler indicated tornado. Just a tropical storm, you can't say just a tropical storm. A lot of things can happen, and we're seeing that tonight with this flood warning that we are kind of concerned about. Obviously, we've had 6 to 8 inches of rain already, more on the way, potentially through the night and tomorrow morning as these bands of showers and storms move through. So if you're in this area of green, which does include the Venetian as well as Venice, Nokomis, Osprey, the Palmer Ranch area, Siesta Key, driving is not suggested here. If you have something planned tonight or you want to go somewhere, you shouldn't. It's not a good look at this point because the roadways can get flooded real quickly in this point as more of these storms move on shore. We saw that in early June when we had that tremendous amount of rain, up to 18 inches on Siesta Key, and a lot of automobiles were stranded as a result of that. We'll move it up the coast just a little bit to show you. That includes into Palmetto, Ellington. Parrish, you're not in it. You're still in a tornado watch, but you're not in this immediate problem, but that could change very quickly. And then one more point, we'll take it down into this for the next, I'd say, 7 minutes or so. This tornado warning is still in effect. More than likely, that's where the cell is. We'll go ahead and put it to there and show you. Yes, that appears to be where the at least indication of a couplet. There's not much of one there, but still there's some rotation and spin, and these things happen real quickly. I can tell you this, and that's another reason why you shouldn't be driving. You may be driving and everything's fine, and then all of a sudden you run into a big squall, and that squall can drop a tornado down just like that, and then it can go back up just like that. And they're strong enough to actually toss cars around in vehicles, and it doesn't take much. It was kind of scary. On top of that, when you're driving, you get a 50, 60-mile-an-hour wind, and you got the trees falling, and that can also be a big danger. Nothing behind that. Punta Gorda, I believe you're out of the woods. Port Charlotte, you're out of the woods. Northport, you're out of the woods. As right there is where the couplet is, and it's moving off to the northeast. We'll check and see if they're going to expire this one early at this point. It's still in effect, as I said, just for the next 6 minutes or so as that pushes off to the northeast. Will they reissue? Well, if it maintains that kind of look there of the rotation, certainly they will, and that would put Arcadia close. I think it misses you to the left, but anywhere in western portions of DeSoto County would still see that problem, and obviously with the flooding, that's a big issue. More rain is on the way. A lot of times what happens with these tropical systems, although the main low pressure area moves to the north, like we're seeing here, boy, we're getting some deep convection developing right near the center. This thing is intensifying, but notice this line of showers. It extends all the way down into Cuba, and it's like a comma shape for the most part, and what's going to happen is all this down here will be setting up right over us, and we're going to see showers filling in here throughout the night. So it's not over yet by any stretch of imagination. Showers and storms will continue to come in. And once again, I must let you know, if you see anything interesting, drop us a picture, a video, whatever it may be, to mysuncoast.com. And that, again, is called Share It. You'll see it at the top of the screen as we go through the evening. You may be seeing some of that. Don't put yourself in danger, obviously, but we'd like to let people know how dangerous things can be just based on your photos. I've gotten a lot of video and pictures in already when we had the high tide around noon today at Anna Marie Island from Captain Scott Moore. Also, Rusty Chinnis out there on Lombok Key sending some flooding problems in earlier today. Now, that tide is going out, but it's expected to come back in, and that's when our winds are going to rotate around more to a west to southwesterly direction. With that happening, the water has nowhere to go, especially if it's raining heavy, and especially if it's around high tide. So let's, again, put that into motion and show you what's happening with this rainfall as it pinwheels our way. You can see these storms really starting to crank up here. Really, I mean, they're expanding. They're moving fast at 40 miles an hour off to the north-northeast. These banding features are becoming more numerous as the storm starts to strengthen a little bit. We told you about the 5 p.m. advisory. It just came down. It's still a tropical storm. However, the winds are going to go up and the pressure is dropping slowly. So it's not a rapidly intensifying storm, but it still could be a strong Category 1 when it makes landfall for tomorrow. You can see the watch and warning. Let's see if they're going to let that still there. So we've got about 4 minutes left to go before this one is expired. As I mentioned, though, I think Punta Gorda and Port Charlotte, you are out of the woods with that particular cell. This is the latest track from the National Hurricane Center. It can be found on mysuncoast.com as well. We'll put that into motion and show you. There's the forecast, a 1 by 2 a.m. I think it becomes a 1 by 11 p.m. tonight. 85-mile-an-hour winds at this point, so it wouldn't take much for it to gain strength. It's right now at 65. It just needs to go up 10 miles an hour. And then it is going to move, but this is 3 days' time basically right here. So we're still going to stay breezy. We've been checking the forecast for the remainder of this, actually for the work week, and it's still going to be wet. And it's still going to be windy because of the proximity of that storm. Speaking of wet, this is a live look at downtown Sarasota right now, where the rains have been heavy at times, and downtown Sarasota in that flood warning, flash flood warning until 8 o'clock tonight as a result of the 6 inches of rain we've seen in a lot of places already. With an additional, I wouldn't be surprised to see 2 to 4 more inches of rain through tonight and tomorrow morning. So once again, this is a live look to downtown Sarasota. The rain continues to fall in that particular area as well. And the temperatures, 83, clouds, showers, and storms around. The enhanced satellite imagery is still showing a deep convection developing around the center of the storm. Debby, which could soon turn into a hurricane. If it's not by 8 o'clock, it'll definitely be by 11 o'clock tonight. It will be a hurricane because you're starting to see development on the western edge. It was eroded all day today due to that dry air, but that has now since filled in. And that means that this dry air that has been around is now starting to fire up across our area. Leslie, you have more on what we can expect as well as what's going on with this watch and warning right now. We've only got about 2 minutes to go before that tornado warning is over for Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, and into western portions of DeSoto County.
All right, yeah, just a couple minutes, and hopefully that tornado warning will be over. I just want you to take this live look here, and you can just kind of see the intensity. Look over there to the right. That's the dock. Now, this is at the historic Bridge Street Pier at the Oyster Bar at Anna Maria Island. And again, you know, these conditions have just been worsening. And look at the canopy. You can just see how intense the winds are. But really, the dock to the right, you see the main area of the dock to the right really getting hammered pretty well. We talk about these watches and warnings and advisories here. Just a quick, recap for you. What are the differences? What do you need to pay attention to when you hear the word watch? It means that there is a risk of a hazardous situation, okay? That means you got to have that plan. You got to know what to do if you see that there is a flood watch. You get your sandbags ready. If you see that there is a tornado watch, you let your family know, okay, this is going to be our safe place in the house. If you hear warning, which we currently are under a tornado warning in those areas that Bob was showing you, but one of them is now been lifted, but we still got about a minute left, and that is near the Port Charlotte area. That means that the event is occurring, that there either has been a tornado spotted or the radar has picked up on what seems to be a tornado in the area, and that is when they issue the warning. So that is when you need to take action. That is when you need to protect yourself, protect your family, protect property, and you save lives by doing that. Now I want to go ahead and take a look at this shot here, and you can see pretty intense as well. Now, this is the Venice Pier. This is Sharky's on the pier. So, much further to the south in Anna Maria Island, I'm going to kind of remove the hour-by-hour forecast so you can just look at the waves and see the intensity of them as they're sort of crashing onto the beach there. And then also, we've got storm surge watches that are in effect in Sarasota County and storm surge warnings that are in fact for Manatee County as we press through the evening. We're going to have high tide overnight, and that's going to be really important because we got to add that extra bit, that 1.5 feet or so, onto the 2 to 4 foot storm surge that we are expecting. And again, that warning still underway in Manatee County. As we take you through hour by hour temperatures, well, the temperatures are cool because we got this terrible weather. No sunshine out there, so we're in the 80s. But we are going to continue to see these bands of this storm continue to move around, and we might get a little bit of a break, and then another one will come through. But we still got some intense weather ahead of us, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in again to the Titan radar, and it looks like, well, this is good news. The tornado warning has been lifted. Let's go back to Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Bob?
Certainly is. We haven't had any reports of damage, and these are Doppler indicated. A lot of times they don't reach your ground. They just give you a heads up. Hey, we've got some rotation in the storm that could drop a tornado fairly quickly, and it was moving at 40 miles an hour. So there's still some signature there. We'll show you that in a little bit, but look at this. This is starting to look a little bit disconcerting as a result of more moisture developing on the southwestern edge of this storm. For the folks in the Big Bend area of Florida, they're going to be dealing with a Category 1 hurricane, and all this is kind of pushing the water up, and that's what we're starting to see now. We're getting that west to southwest wind. There have been reports of flooding in Inglewood. Also, with this in Venice, you just showed that picture of Sharkies on the pier. The water is getting pretty tough there at this point. The rain has ended in Inglewood for right now. We'll go a little closer and show you it's still coming down in places like into and around Anna Maria Island in Bradenton, northwest Bradenton, seeing some heavy rainfall there. You take a look at the estimated rainfall that's occurred so far with this storm, and we're getting a bullseye right there near Anna Maria Island, 6.2, near Cortez, nearly 6 inches of rain. Not as much in Parrish at this point, but still 3 inches, and you're not done with the rain yet out there either. It's, again, near downtown Bradenton, nearly 5 inches. So, as we said, 6 to 8 inches for a wide swath of our area, and the possibility of 12 inches as we go through the remainder of this event, which isn't over at this point. Lesser amounts in Venice, but we're still seeing some more storms developing to the east of you. This is right there as we take a look at Venice is right there, and as we move it up the road, you can see south of Siesta Key, 6.3 inches near the Palmer Ranch area. Venice, I mentioned, not as much, but still 4 inches, which is going to just kind of sit there, especially if we get more rainfall. And speaking of that, this is what we're keeping an eye on right now, out to the west. If anything else is developing. I told you these are expanding. So this particular cell was much smaller just about an hour ago. We'll go ahead and put that into motion and show you that. You can see it kind of coming up here real quick, and then all of a sudden it starts to explode. So a tremendous amount of rainfall. This is another patch of heavy rain that's going to be moving on into and around Osprey and Siesta Key. This one's going to get Longbow Key and northwest Bradenton. And I mentioned earlier, if you're just tuning in, we've got a problem with watches and warnings with flooding. We saw this in early June, similar flash flood warning for a large swath of our area. And you may recall what happened out on St. Armand Circle, on Siesta Key. Homes were flooded, businesses were flooded, and now it extends all the way down into Venice. So this isn't just getting this small area here. It's covering a large swath of our viewing area, all the way up from Urbonia southward through Bradenton, Palmetto, and into the Gulf Gate area, as well as into and around El Conquistador, and then from Anna Maria Island southward all the way to South Venice at this point. So things are really starting to heat up across the area. Well, one more time, we'll check and see on the radar. We don't see any tornado warnings anymore. As far as the couplets go, you can see a couple of them right there. They weren't that well pronounced. They're still there. There goes one right there, a little brighter green that you see, and the darker green indicates some rotation and circulation, but no longer a tornado threat into Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, or Northport. Things are calm now, but they could get more active as we progress through the night. We'll have much more coming up at 6:30 with our newscast. We've got reporters on the scene throughout the Suncoast, and Leslie Lacey and myself will bring you the forecast. Now we rejoin our regular scheduled programming, now in progress.